today our group would like to talk about Lexeme. But before we start, let's take a look at these words. Have you ever heard strange words like head bracelet, McDonaldization, or unwipe? Maybe you haven't, but you probably can guess what they mean. For example, a head bracelet must be something that goes around the head. McDonaldization maybe has something to do with McDonald's style system. And unwipe sounds like restoring something that was deleted. So even though these words might look new, we can still guess what they mean. The reason why we can do this is because these words follow the rules of word formation in English. When we know the base of the word, the main part that carries the meaning, we can often figure out the rest of the meaning. This shows how English words are formed from smaller parts that each have their own meaning. These parts are called morphemes. Now, let's look at the next part, kinds of morphemes. Take the words unwipe, head bracelet, and McDonaldization. If we break them down, they look like this. Unwipe, head, bracelet, McDonald, eyes, Asian. So these smaller pieces are all morphemes, the smallest meaningful parts of words. Some of them can stand alone as real words. These are called free morphemes. Others, like eyes, and Asian, cannot stand alone. They always need to attach to something else. These are called bound morphemes. So bound morphemes can appear in different positions. When they come before the base, we call them prefixes, like or re. When they come after, we call them suffixes, like ness, eyes, or Asian. Prefixes and suffixes together are called affixes. When we add prefixes or suffixes to a base, we form new words, often called derived words, and the process is called derivation. The base is the main part of the word that carries its core meaning. For example, wipe is the base of unwipe, and McDonald is the base of McDonaldization. Now, let's take a look at these words. Pathology, psychology, dermatitis, and endoderm. Each of these words can be divided into two morphemes. For example, pathology, path, and ology. Psychopath, psycho, and path. Dermatitis, derm, itis. Endoderm, endo, derm. But in these examples, neither part is a free morpheme. You can't just say path or derm by themselves in English. So we cannot call them prefixes or suffixes because that would mean these words are made up only of affixes, which doesn't make sense. That's why morphologists make another distinction between affixes and bound bases. A bound base is a morpheme that carries meaning but cannot stand alone, and it's not a prefix or suffix. For example, path means sickness, derm means skin, psycho means mind, ology means study of, and itis means disease. In psychopath, the path follows psycho, but in pathology, path comes before ology. That means these bases can appear before or after other morphemes. So path and derm are bound bases and not affixes. Some bound bases, like psycho and ology, have more fixed positions. Psycho usually comes before another part, while ology usually comes at the end. But others, like path and derm, can move around more freely. Now, these morphemes still have clear meanings. They are semantically strong. So even though path and derm cannot stand alone, they still form the core meanings meaning of words like dermatitis or pathology. Finally, let's talk about another pair of important terms, root and stem. In languages like Latin, every word has a root, which is the smallest part that carries the main meaning, like am, meaning love. When we add inflectional endings like o or mus, they show grammatical features like person or number. And sometimes there is also an extra piece between the root and the ending. And that piece doesn't carry meaning, it just helps the ending attach. So the root plus this extra piece is called the stem. In simple words, the root is the heart of the word, so its main meaning, and the stem is the form to which endings are added. If you remove the endings from a word, what's left is usually the stem. So words are made from meaningful pieces called morphemes, that these pieces can be free or bound, that some are affixes while others are bound bases, and that all of them together show how English and other languages systematically build meaning through word structure. The next material would be explained by my friends. Thank you.
Hello everyone. The previous speaker gave us an understanding of the morphemes, the smallest indivisible unit of semantic content or grammatical function which a word is made up of. But language does not stop at small pieces. Now, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture that we call lexeme. What is lexeme? Let's take a look into this example. Lexemes are represented in capital letter. Let's take a look. The first example, fly, belongs to particular syntactic classifications. It has a certain meaning and it has corresponding inflectional paradigm. And also, the second lexeme, fly, which belongs to another category of verbs, and the meaning is physical transfer from one location to another location, and it has its own inflectional paradigm. In conclusion, lexeme is an abstract term which is associated with syntactic category and a particular semantic classification, regardless of its inflected forms. Our vocabulary is constantly expanding. The lexeme is the goal, but how do we get new lexemes into the lexicon? Languages primarily use two powerful methods of word formation. The first one is affixation and the second one is compounding. Affixation is the process of forming new words by adding affixes to a base root word or stem. Let's see about the word formation rules. The first categorical requirement of the base, syntactic category. It means which part of speech the affix can attach to it. For example, the suffix ness only attaches to adjective. Happy becomes happiness. Second one is category of the result. For example, the suffix ness changes an adjective into a noun. For example, kind becomes kindness. About compounding. Compounding is the process of forming new words by combining two or more bases, roots, or stems. First thing, identifying compounds. The most reliable test to confirm if a sequence of words is a compound or not is the insertion test. If you cannot insert another word between two parts, it is a compound word. For example, the word toothbrush becomes tooth nice brush. It's not acceptable. So, toothbrush is a compound. Another example, is black car becomes black fast car. It is acceptable. So black car is a phrase, not a compound. Next thing is the compound head. The head is the element that determines both of part of speech and the main semantic type of the entire compound. First one, right-headed compounds. The head is the second element. It is most common thing in English. For example, greenhouse is a noun. It is type of house, not type of green. Second thing is left-headed compounds. The head is the first element. For example, meja makan. Let us talk about three semantic types of compounds. Compounds are classified based on the meaning relationship between their elements. The first one, attributive. The first word gives extra information about the head or main word. For example, chocolate cake. The cake that made with chocolate. Second, coordinative. Two elements have equal weight. Both are semantic heads. For example, producer, director. Someone who is both a producer and a director. Blue-green, a mix of both colors. And third one, subordinative compounds are formed when one word depends on the other, usually with a hidden verb-object relationship. For example, in truck driver, the person drives a truck. So the first word functions like the object of the action expressed by the second word. The endocentric. The referent of the compound is the referent of its head. For example, toothbrush, a type of brush used for teeth. And exocentric, the meaning of the compound does not come from the head. The compound refers to something else, often a person or an idea. For example, pickpocket, a person who steals the pocket, not a type of pocket, right? That is all from me. Thank you very much for your attention. Let us continue the material. Bye.
Okay, now I will continue to the next topic, which is conversion and minor process. In this part, we will see how new words can be created, not by adding affixes, but by changing their grammatical function or by using other smaller process. Conversion is a process where a word changes its grammatical category, but its form stay exactly the same. That means there is no prefix, no suffix, and no spelling change. Only the function of the word change. Because of that, conversion is also called functional shift. For example, from a noun to a verb, we can say table becomes to table, meaning to present something for discussion. Fish become to fish, and bread become to bread, meaning to cover with breadcrumbs. From a verb to a noun, we have to throw becomes a throw, to kick become a kick, and to run become a run. In this case, the new nouns usually means in an instance or result of the action. Sometimes even adjective become verbs, like cool becomes too cool. That means to make something cool. And yellow become too yellow. That means to turn yellow. Conversion is very productive in English, but it also happens in other languages. For instance, in German N words become N-worten. In Dutch, hammer become hammeren. And in French, visit become visitor. So, it is a natural process in main language. There are two main ideas about how this happens. The first one is called zero affixation, which is suggests that there is an invisible morpheme that changes the category. For example, chair plus zero affix become to chair. The second idea is recategorization, which say there is no hidden affix. The same form is just used in a new grammatical role. Both explanations show that conversion can happen even when the word shape stay the same. Next, I'll move on to minor process. These are smaller and less frequent ways of forming new words, but they show how creative speaker can be. There are 5 of them: coinage, base formation, clipping, blending, and acronym or initialisms. Coinage means making a completely new word, usually from nothing. Common examples are like brand names like Codex, Xerox, and Kleenex. Later, some of these become part of our daily language, like to Xerox meaning to photocopy. Backformations happen when people remove what looks like an affix to make a new word. For example, editor become an edit, burglar become burgle. Speakers assume the shorter word came first, even though it didn't. Clipping is when we shorten a language word. For example, advertisement become an ad, laboratory become lab, and examination become exam. These short forms are very common in everyday speech. Blending is when we combine two words or part of them. For instance, smoke comes from smoke and fog, and brunch come from breakfast and lunch. This process mixes both the sound and the meaning of the word to make a new one. Acronym and initialisms are made from the first letter of several words. Acronyms are read as one word, such as NATO, NASA, and UNICEF. Initialisms are read letter by letter, like FBI, BBC, and ATM. We use them as normal nouns. For example, NASA discovered a new planet, or the FBI is investigating a case. Some of them can even be pluralized, like 2 cities or 3 MPs. To sum up, conversion allows a word to change its grammatical category without changing its form, and minor processes such as coinage, backformation, clipping, blending, and acronyms, and initialism show how flexible and creative language can be. Together, they remind us the word formation is not only about adding affixes, but also about creativity and adaptation in communication. That's all for my part. Thank you.
Hello everyone. In this presentation, we're going to explore how morphological analysis works and how lexemes are formed through several unique processes. When we analyze morphology, we study the structure of words, how morphemes combine to form different meanings and grammatical functions. Now, let's take a look at further afield at some special ways that lexeme can be created. Number 1, infixes. Let's begin with infixes. Unlike prefixes or suffixes that attach to the edges of a word, an infix is inserted inside a word's base form. For example, in Tagalog, sulat means write. When we insert the infix it becomes sumulat, which means wrote. The meaning changes, but the root remains the same, showing how infixation creates a new grammatical form. Number 2. Circumfixes. The next process is circumfixiation. A circumfix is an affix that appears at both the beginning and the end of a base word simultaneously. In German, the base Lieb means love. When we add ge at the start and te at the end, we get geliebt, meaning loved. Here, both parts of the circumfix work together as one unit to form a new word. Number 3. Internal stem change. Next is internal stem change. This occurs when a word changes one of its internal sounds, usually a vowel, to mark a grammatical difference. In English, we see this in verbs like sing, sang, and sung. There's no prefix or suffix added. Instead, the vowel changes within the stem signal tense or aspect. This shows how internal sound variation can serve a grammatical function. Number 4. Reduplication. Another important process is reduplication. Reduplication means repeating all or part of a word to modify its meaning. For example, in Indonesian, orang means person, while orang-orang means people. This repetition can indicate plurality, repetition, or intensity, depending on the language. It's a very productive process in many language systems, especially in Southeast Asia. Number 5. Templatic morphology. Finally, let's look at templatic morphology, or sometimes called root and pattern morphology. It's commonly found in Arabic and Hebrew, where words are formed by inserting vowels into a fixed consonant pattern. For instance, the root k to b represent the idea of writing. When we apply different vowel patterns, we get kataba, meaning he wrote, kutiba, meaning it was written, and katib, meaning writer. The consonant carried the main meaning, while the vowels create the grammatical and lexical variations. So, through these processes, such as infixation, circumfixiation, internal stem change, reduplication, and templatic morphology, we can see how languages form new lexemes and express grammatical relationship in creative ways. Each process reveals a different strategy that languages use to build meaning within their word structures. So, I think that's all from me today. Thank you so much.
Alright, and now I will explain about affixes and internal changes. The first one is affixes. So, an affix is a letter or series of letters added to a root word to create a new word or to change its meaning. Previously, we have learned two basic types of affixes. We have prefix and suffix. And now, let's talk about other types of affixes, which is infixes and circumfixes. The first one is infixes. Infixes are affixes that are inserted right into a root or base. In English, we barely use this, but we can find some examples in other language. For example, in Tagalog, a language spoken in the Philippines, it is possible to form intransitive verbs, meaning become X from adjectives by inserting the morpheme after the first consonant of the adjective root. For the example, gumanda. The root is ganda, means beautiful, while gumanda means become beautiful. The second one is humirap. The root hirap means difficult, meanwhile humirap means become difficult. So, English does not have any productive processes of infixation. But there is one marginal process that comes close when we take an expletive word and insert it into a base word to make it stronger or to emphasize the word. For example, in American English, we have fucking, goddamn, or friggin'. In British English, we have bloody. The examples is abso-fucking-lutely for absolutely and fan-bloody-tastic for fantastic. The second one is circumfixes. A circumfix consists of two parts, a prefix and a suffix that together create a new lexeme from a base. In short, a circumfix attaches to both the beginning and the end of a word. Some examples, like in Dutch, the morpheme ge is affixed before the base and te after the base. For the examples, berg means mountain, but when we add ge and te, it means mountain chain. The second one is gevogelte. Vogel means bird, but when we add ge and te, it becomes flock of birds. But neither geberg or bergte alone forms a word. It's only the presence of both parts that signal the collective meaning. Another example can be found in Tagalog. The root insik means Chinese person, but when we add circumfix ka and an, it becomes kainsikan. It means the Chinese. Second one is kapulauan. The root is pulo, which means island, while after adding circumfixes, it means archipelago. The next one is internal stem change. First one, we have ablaut and umlaut. So, ablaut is a systematic vowel change within a word that indicates a grammatical contrast, such as tense or aspect. In English, they usually change tense from present to past. For the example, sing to sang, ring to rang, and give to gave. Another example in Manchu, haha means man, hehe means woman, ama means father, and eme means mother. So, this distinction is made through the use of vowel sounds, where a is associated with masculine concepts, while e is associated with feminine concepts. An umlaut is a vowel change caused by nearby sounds, usually when a sound in the next syllable influences the vowel in the root. In English, they usually change the singular form into a plural form. For example, like woman to women, foot into feet, and tooth into teeth. Another example in Germany, Bruder means brother, Bruderlein means little brother, Frau means woman, and Fraulein means young woman or girl. And the last one is consonant mutation. In some languages, morphological processes are signaled by changes in consonants rather than vowels in the base, root, or stem. Such processes are called consonant mutations, where the consonant change and not the vowel. Examples: in Sirir Sim, a language used in Senegal in West Africa, they have odon means man in singular and ondon means man in plural. And then they have opat means slave in singular and ombat means slaves in plural. In this language, it shows that consonant mutations is used to change from the singular form to plural form. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Raisha and Putri, and right now I will continue the explanation about lexeme. Let's talk about reduplication. What is a reduplication? Reduplication is a morphological process in which the base form of the word or a part of the base is repeated to form a new word. There are two types of reduplication. The first one is full reduplication. This process involves the repetition of the entire base word. In the English language, it is often found in informal speech, baby talk, or for emphasis. For example, bye-bye as a form of farewell, choo-choo as an imitation of a train sound, or house for emphasis, meaning a real or official house. In the Indonesian language, full reduplication is the most common and productive form of reduplication. It is used for expressing plurality, like from buku to buku-buku, or to express repetitiveness, like from jalan to jalan-jalan, or to express intensity, like from terseduh to terseduh-seduh. Now, the next type of reduplication is partial reduplication. This process involves a repetition of only a part of the base word, often accompanied with some changes. In English, there are two main types of partial reduplication. First one is ablaut reduplication. This is the most common type of partial reduplication in English, where the two parts of the word have contrasting vowel sound, usually following the pattern of a high front vowel like a or e in the first part and a mid to low vowel like a or o in the second part. The base element is often not a meaningful word on its own, like for example, chit-chat meaning light conversation, ding-dong, the sound of a bell, or tick-tock, the sound of a clock. The next type is rhyme reduplication. In this type of partial reduplication, the vowel remains the same, but the initial consonant or consonant cluster or the onset is changed to create a rhyming effect. For example, hocus pocus, a phrase to perform a magic trick, a walkie-talkie, a portable two-way radio, or super duper, meaning excellent. The next material that I will be talking about today is templating morphology. Templating morphology is a way of building words by fitting roots into a fixed pattern or template of vowels and consonants. It is also called a non-concatenative morphology because instead of just adding pieces to the ends of words like English does with ed or ing, the shape or pattern of the word itself changes inside. Think of English like building with Lego blocks. You just snap pieces in a line. The meaning grows by adding chunks like prefixes or suffixes. Each block is separate and visible. You can take them off or replace them easily. Like, for example, the root happy plus prefix un plus suffix ness. It becomes unhappiness. Now let's take a look at Arabic, where templating morphology is very common. Now imagine a mold or template with empty slots for a vowel. You take a root or the meaning skeleton, usually consonants, and pour it into the mold. In templating systems like Arabic or Hebrew, you don't add affixes in a line. Instead, you fit root into pattern or template that includes vowels and sometimes extra consonants. Let's take a look at an example in Arabic. The root or the skeleton is kataba, meaning write. We can fit this root into several patterns to make different meanings. Like for example, the first pattern is consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel to make kataba, meaning he wrote. Or the next pattern, we can use consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel, consonant to make katib, meaning writer. Or we can use the pattern consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant to make kata, meaning caused to write. The same root kataba fits into different templates, producing different but related words. The meaning doesn't come from adding pieces at the edges. It comes from changing the internal pattern of the word. Now, let me conclude our presentation for today. Our exploration began with establishing the foundational units of word structure. We first defined the morpheme as the smallest meaningful component, distinguishing between those that can stand alone or free morpheme and those that must attach or bound morpheme. This led to clarifying the basic architecture of words, differentiating between the core meaning carried by the root and the form to which additions are made, known as the stem. We then progressed to the major productive processes that drive vocabulary growth, particularly in English. First, affixation. It's the systematic addition of prefixes and suffixes, governed by specific rules. And compounding, the combination of two or more bases. Following this, we explored the creative and non-affixational strategies, including conversion, where a word changes its grammatical category without changing its form, and various minor processes like clipping, blending, and back formation, which demonstrate language's flexibility and adaptability. Finally, we broadened our view to the more complex and diverse system found across world's languages. These methods move beyond linear addition, incorporating affixes inserted within a root, like infixes and circumfixes. Internal structural changes such as ablaut and umlaut, and the powerful system of reduplication. We concluded with the most abstract process, the templatic morphology, a pattern-based system where meaning is derived from a consonant, root, and vowel template. In sum, the study of morphology reveals that word formation is not random, but a structured, systematic, and globally diverse mechanism. It is a statement to the sophisticated rules of languages used to systematically encode and expand meaning. Now, thank you very much for watching our video presentation and see you next time. Goodbye.